It has been about 8 months since our friend from Track5 Media, so better known as Travel Nurse Source, Allied Travel Careers, has joined us here in Omaha. He's back just in time for a blizzard. Who would have guessed? On this episode, we talked to Oliver Feakins again. I have more questions for him, this time specifically around not the candidate experience, but my experience on the agency side, or your experience on the agency side. This is Atlas All Access. All right, my friend.
Let's get it.
Welcome back.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having us back.
Okay, so I mentioned it. It's been 8 months.
Yeah.
I want to understand, and 8 months in our industry, especially in this market, has probably seemed like forever. It seemed like forever for us.
Right.
What has changed for you guys? Has anything changed along the way?
Yeah, it has. Rich, thanks again and the team for having us and being hospitable. We're happy to be here in Omaha and see all our partners and clients and just kind of break bread with everybody. Mm-hmm. And what's changed in the last 8 months for us, I think, is kind of the micro analysis. So if you think during COVID, there was such a demand from the agency side, it was volume, volume, volume. Pay rates spoke for themselves. It's more kind of order taking. It was just more transactional as far as nature.
For sure.
Now it's not. Like the pay rates aren't there, at the same rate they were during COVID. And the recruiters have to really get in there a little bit more, and the agencies have to adjust. And where we found our value add is helping those agencies during that transition, making sure they're adjusting, highlighting data integrity or data issues, highlighting areas where they're not as competitive towards some of the other agencies, and really helping them fill the gap from when they receive the candidate to when they submit or place them. So that's kind of where we've been focused. But we've also been doubling down on quality, making sure we're dealing with things like spam issues, just really coming down funnel to the placement, not just the lead count.
I did a little research.
Oh, here we go.
This is going to be fun. 12 years ago, you did a talk at Elizabethtown College.
Yeah.
I found this. It's on. The internet is forever.
Yeah.
I found this on YouTube. As I watched it, I thought, okay, I really want to understand what it was like in 2013, 12 years ago versus what it is for you right now. So, and you talked a lot about Google search and what's coming with socials and that type of thing, which you were right on some of it. Some of it is like, how could you have possibly predicted,
right?
Where that was all going. But what I really want to understand, the question for you is, how has understanding users and what they search for and how they search and their behaviors, how is that the same as maybe when you gave that speech 12 years ago?
Yeah, so I remember that speech, and I had the flu. I had a 103-degree fever, but I wasn't going to turn away. So I remember halfway through that speech thinking that I was actually going to pass out. And I was like, but I got to keep going, right? Show's got to go on, right? So here we go, kids. And I was surprised I was coherent. But anyway,
it was a great talk.
Good. Yeah, so I think in that speech, primarily, we're really transactionally focused on search, right? So search and social and omnichannel, but really kind of like the Google strategies. Where I think we are now is that marketing channels have become just more broad and more blended, right? So, Google, it's really Google search, social, display, referral, like all the different channels make up, the ecosystem of which we plan. Mm-hmm. But Google makes some really interesting changes, right? So, for example, zero search results is something that we're looking very closely. So it started off with rich snippets and structured data. So you would type something into Google, Cunningham's have a kids menu, right? Mm-hmm. You would previously have to find Cunningham's website, go to that restaurant and see if they have a kids menu. Now Google will pull it out and display it. It used to be in a rich snippet if the data was structured so that Google could pull that data out.
Yep.
And now with Google's Gemini, they're answering the question for you with AI. So
right up at the top now.
Right.
Yep.
So what does this mean from a search standpoint is that Google's answering the users' needs and not really having them have to scroll down the page and click. So that has paid ad implications. It has organic implications. If they're getting their needs met at the very top of the page and they don't have to scroll, they're not going to click your organic. We're at an interesting area where not that SEO is not important, but it is heavily competing with that.
Do you still, question 2A then, do you still believe in organic search results?
Yes,
Because you would think that would fall to almost third now, right? I mean, it's Gemini first, then it's paid, then it's organic.
Right. So yes, because a couple different ways. So if you think of Google's regular search displays, that's only one part of it, right? So Google has many different real estates, as i.e., Google Images, Google Nude, Google Video, all kinds of different things that use that organic SEO. AI is still fed from that structured data, which is a part of the on-site SEO groomings. And then if you think of things like Siri, voice search, mobile search, those are also pulled from schema and SEO related activities. So, when we if we want to, show up on Google Maps or Apple Maps, right? If we want to show up on things like that, you still have to go through the SEO process. Where this is broadened out is, providing content marketing opportunities to boost domain authority, for example, to show up higher, but also blending it with kind of social. We kind of look at the channels differently. So Google is generally really high quality traffic. It is the highest quality traffic you're going to get. It comes at a price, it's difficult to get, and it changes often. Social is, but it's much more transactional, much more active. On social, it's more passive. It is generally easier to get, but there's two different users you pull from those two channels.
Right.
But you need both. It's a blended.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think the last little bit about that was I thought you were talking about content marketing and content creation even back then, which I thought was awesome. That was just a dream in the back of my head in 2013. So the last time, and this is when you said, okay, I've got a little bit of time for you today. Yeah. As you're going from agency to agency, one of the things I thought as I watched the previous time we were together here and you talked about the value proposition for travelers. Talk about the value prop for agencies, for us. Because I thought that's a really interesting conversation to have, that maybe we're so focused on talking directly to our travelers here, I am, that we never really talk about your value, the value you bring to us, and that how you build that for companies like us.
Yeah, and I think I'd break it down into a couple different boxes, and we can even make it like like agnostic, right? So platforms in general, right? One of the things that we do, and one of the things I'll start with this. So one of the things that I don't think people really think about enough, like branding is not sexy. It is if you're a marketer, and that's why I love Atlas, because it's led by a marketer. So there's no fighting upstream to have marketing be at the forefront. It is the forefront. The brand is the whole deal. If you think about like job board advertising in general, right? Everyone's so focused on how many applies they get from those jobs. That's the KPI they look at. How many placements they get from those jobs. But they're not looking at the fact that those job boards are spread out to hundreds of other job boards, and your brand is being impressed on hundreds, if not thousands, or hundreds of thousands of people actively seeking for what you do. Yep. Agencies in general will not place any value whatsoever on that metric, but it's a real thing. So I think us getting you out there is number one. Obviously maintaining a community of active travelers where you can, introduce them to your agency and your open jobs is another. But again, another thing that we're really leaning into is trying to come down funnel and say, there's agencies that we work with and they're great people and they're trying really hard. This industry is difficult right now. And we could shower them with, infinite amount of leads, and they're just not going to be able to place them in significant volumes. And it's an internal problem, right? Yeah. So, but their go-to is, well, these leads are bad, right? Kind of poor workman blames us tools, right? Sure. And we see these leads placing in other agencies, so we know they're good. Not all of them, but we know the majority of them are decent. But so we're like, okay, we need to figure out how to help people use our product better. And that means us coming into the space a little bit and trying to leverage, knowledge or data to help them do a little bit, better. Some of it might be things like pay rates or behaviors, right? So we have one agency that's like, we call right away. And when we pressure tested that data, they called 2 days later.
Is that really right away? Right, exactly.
For them it is.
Yeah.
For Atlas it's not.
Yeah, no.
They're already talking about assignment number 2 at that point.
That's exactly right. Well, I think it's interesting too, because you pull back the curtain a little bit. Like we've sent our actual placement data to you, and then you have sent it back to us and said, okay, this is what you think it is, but this is what we believe it is. Yeah. And we get, in some cases that we found, 2 completely different stories, which is interesting from a marketing standpoint, because I need to understand once they get in the door where they're coming from, once they get in the door, and then what we do with them afterwards.
And that's hard, right? Because and you guys are phenomenal with it. You have a team. You're well equipped. You know this, and even somebody as great as Atlas in this field can still have blind spots.
Absolutely.
And And you guys are good. So imagine agencies that don't have this on the forefront, that have issues with, ATSs and integrations and data, or they just don't have the teams to be able to do this.
Right.
They're missing way more. And our goal is not to be like, look how valuable we are. Hooray. Our goal is to if we can get around a single source of truth, then we can back it into how we can help you do better.
No one's going to buy a product that doesn't offer value, right? And that's purely all you're doing at this point is,
Sure.
Right. You're established now. You're showing like this. We have been here for a very long time, and now this is the value that we bring after all of these years. We have this wealth of information. Let's share that out.
Well, the other thing too is that we're also trying to do our part to recalibrate the industry's perspective after COVID, because, and especially with some new entrances of some competitors in the market where it's very highly transactional, that became the shiny object during COVID. It was like, great, we can just rapid fire these placements. And after COVID, again, now we're coming back to kind of what I would consider old school, the way we used to do it, kids. But, we're bringing everything back to like relationships and like doing no wrong, right? We can have these conversations with agencies all day long. And they're like, yeah, but about those placements that we went right away. But when we bring the data back in, we were just talking about this at a previous meeting. We did an audit on a client who they did a free trial on one of our products for a month, just a random shot, see if they like it. They wanted to do this audit. So we did this audit and they gave us that month's worth of placements.
Okay.
They were on with us 2 years prior for a very short period of time. And they had money issues, they stopped. When we ran their placement reports to see what they placed on the free trial, they had 6 placements that month from leads that they received 2 years ago that were only on for like 6 months. And our argument was, wow, imagine what would have happened if you would have been on for the last 2 years.
Kept
This probably
going.
would have been 3 or 4 times. And what would your cost per placement be?
Absolutely.
Like a fraction. Like you're still placing 2-year-old leads. In your leads, we placed someone that we had 12 years ago.
Yes.
Right? Like an active traveler is an active traveler. But we need to re-educate the industry on it's not just stocking your fridge for today, but your freezer for tomorrow. And data helps us have that conversation.
Awesome. That's a really good analogy. I'm stealing that one. I like that one.
But you have kids, right?
Oh, yeah.
So if you, do you remember when they were little? Like if
Yes.
you only stocked you probably have a teenager at some point, so this gets even worse for you.
I have a teenager right now.
Oh, so this is going to be perfect for you, right? So
Yeah.
if you're only going shopping to fill your fridge, how many times are you going shopping?
Oh, every other day.
Every other day, right?
Absolutely.
But if you stock the big fridge, right, you don't have to. So if you're only stocking your fridge, as a recruiter, you are always hungry and you're always going to the fridge. And what that means for agencies is they're paying more.
Yeah.
If you have a freezer and you're able to grow this and crop this group of potential candidates, because they may not go today, they may not be ready. Previous one we just went to, they said, some of these candidates aren't qualified. We're like, how are they not qualified? Well, they weren't qualified for the job they applied to.
Right now, yes.
Right, but are they a nurse? Yes. Are they qualified? Are they interested in working with you? Yes. Then they are qualified. They just didn't fit in that job.
Correct.
So if we can change that mentality, agencies will do better. We will have more value. The agencies will make more money. The nurses will be placed where they want to go, and everybody wins.
All right, last question.
Yeah.
I am specifically because I think this will do well on LinkedIn, and I love LinkedIn recently. Your relationship with Yusuf at Vetted is awesome. You guys are direct competitors.
Yeah, we are.
If I don't see you talking like at least twice a week on LinkedIn, like having open conversations, I think something's wrong. Like
We text each other.
See, and here's what's interesting about that. So we have those relationships with other agencies in our industry, some of which you are here visiting here in Omaha. We're having a dinner tomorrow night, weather pending, where I'm not only happy to see you and see our competitors. My competitors are going to be there, and they're my friends. And
They are, because we have a request to sit next to you for some of them.
No way.
Yes.
No.
It's Rich going, put me next to him.
Oh, gosh.
It's true, but it's because of your ethos, right? It's this whole idea is better together than better apart, right?
Right.
And there's everyone gets everything kind of gets circled around, then we each take our shot, we place, and then maybe they'll go to another shade, come back.
Yep.
Tearing each other down and not growing together doesn't serve the common good, and it doesn't help Atlas at all.
Absolutely.
Right.
So I guess my question around that is like, how did it start? Who approached who first?
So Yusuf doesn't know this. He's probably going to laugh. We haven't told him this. But if he hears this, he's going to be like, oh, that's what happened?
I hope he's listening.
Oh, no, I hope not. But this is actually kind of funny. So we had approached Yusuf with like, hey, we wanted to again, from the source of how do we provide value? How do we help our agencies do better without selling them more products, right? It wasn't what I wanted to do. I didn't want to go in and be like, give us more money, you're hurting. I didn't want to turn it into an opportunity. I wanted to just selflessly give something to so I'm like,
right.
Let's get Yusuf another, we tried to get Vivian, for example, to get involved and no interest, right? So we called Yusuf and we were like, Yusuf, do you want to do something together to help the agencies do better? He was all about it immediately. So let's just have a quick podcast and talk about some things and compare notes and see if we can help our shared client base. I said, cool. So Yusuf starts sending over logos and branding for this like singular podcast. And I was like, oh, he's really going all out. He wants like a logo for this thing. And I'm like, so me and the marketing team were like, I wonder why he's doing that. We're like, all right, let's just run with it, see what happens. So we did, we do the thing, and the next thing you know, he's like, cool. And he posts this thing on LinkedIn where he's like, I started a podcast with my competitor. So we were thinking it was just a one thing, and then Yusuf was thinking it was going to be this big series.
Oh,
but
man.
We're like, well, what a great idea. And it's already out on LinkedIn. So we're starting a podcast with so we jumped in like, of course we're starting a podcast with our competitor. We developed he's actually came to our offices. We had him in Lancaster. So all the way, he lives in Mexico.
Yeah.
So all the way from Mexico to he was visiting someone in New York, and he's like, take an Amtrak down, come see us. So we did. We took him to dinner. We showed him around our office. He's like, we were like, everybody erase your whiteboards. Yusuf's coming, So he came in. So we have like kind of, from the aspect of like, what can we share with each other that will help both organizations serve our industry better? We obviously don't tell each other everything, but we also are really candid. Like, we'll talk about where we're struggling, to say maybe he's struggling over here that he can teach us something, or vice versa. We're obviously a little larger. We've been around a lot of time, but Yusuf also, because he's a little bit smaller, he has to be a little bit more nimble. So he's created efficiencies that we could learn from. So that's super, super helpful. And we also just care that we have that attitude of like, it's about working together. And like, there's a lot of our other competitors in the platform space that don't have that motive. Like, we've tried to like make it a thing. Yeah. I mean, there's a new entrance to the competitor who's blasts us on LinkedIn, and we're like, that's just not who we are, Yeah. So we just try to be friendly.
I love it. I think it's fascinating. And a lot of like, we openly talk about our relationships that we have with other agencies that I will absolutely bleed to compete and beat. But like, then we can go to dinner, and it's so much fun to do.
Isn't that great though?
It's great.
Wouldn't you rather have it that way?
And this has nothing to do with anything, but when I started, 21 years ago, we all hated each other. We were taught to hate each other. No, Aria's down the street, they're bad. Yeah. You should not talk to anybody. And like, why? We're doing the same thing.
It's a human being. It's just a person. You know what I mean? And then they're just in a different brand. But like, not to mention here, like, we'll walk into a conference room and like, hey, where'd you come from? Well, we just came from X. Oh, Jimmy used to work there. Yeah, it's so incestuous. Yep. Everyone's been everywhere. So like, it's kind of like a big family. And
it is.
Is it you that told me like the running joke of this is like the only time you guys see each other is when SIA is and you head up to the airport?
And we have to go to the airport, or then we have dinners in Miami or Las Vegas or wherever. Yeah. So
but it's amazing how small the travel healthcare industry is.
Absolutely.
Being that it's so small and it's so difficult right now, it just seems like the industry could do better coming together than it could tearing each other apart. And we want to be part of leading that fray along with you guys as well, of course.
Absolutely. Which brings me to just my opinion. Now, this is just my opinion. I was told this morning by Nathan, 15 minutes before you showed up, this is our 200th episode of this. Yes.
Congratulations.
200. So, wow. I think my opinion here is simply, it's just when I started doing this, oh my gosh, before Nathan was here and Ashley was here, and we were just in a closet, and we looked like hostages, and it was me and Matt Lawhorn, you go back and watch, they were bad. And we had terrible microphones, and we had Matt Lawhorn's just like nature, like wildlife camera. Yeah. The memory card could only hold like 10 minutes of video at a time. So I had to be quick about it. The reason why we started was because I wanted to have these open conversations. And so over the years, I've had so many fun guests, not only our travelers, but competitors in the industry and vendors that are here. And I've made so many friends and I hope done some good with it along the way. I love that you recognize this when you come to town and you want to be a part of it. And it's been so much fun. It's more than just the wall and all this. It's being able to communicate directly with all of you that I don't get to meet at all in some cases, or maybe just sometimes, once a year, but then make you still feel at home with the agency that you travel with, or understand that like we all are just trying to move towards that same goal, right? And in the end, it's patient care, and it's just making sure that you take care of the people that we love the most in all of those ways.
And I think it does, Rich, if I may.
Of course.
I think it underscores what I view. I'm completely wrong. It underscores what I view as the main center point of your brand identity.
Okay.
As Atlas, which is authenticity. If I had to say give me one word to describe Atlas's brand, it's authentic. And I think this allows you to communicate that authenticity and give people a view into kind of that level of it, what you're thinking, and it's all holds bar. And I think that parlays over to the traveler experience, right? It breeds into so many other things, but absolutely, I think that's what it is.
I appreciate that, because I like to think that I'm the same guy here, if in this chair or that chair, that I am at a dinner table, or out at a party, or at a not that I'm too old for parties, I don't do that anymore, or at a kid's ball game, or those types of things. I'm the same person, and I hope I'm glad that comes through. So.
It is, and as we're talking about recruiting, if I could just do a small plug here too.
Of course.
Talent Track. If you want to see more from Rich, you got to go to talenttrackconference.com or go to trackfive.com, or LinkedIn. We have a bunch of links. Free recruiter conference in June. It's like 4 or 5 hours. It's completely free. It's all actionable tips for recruiters. If you're interested in getting into the industry as well, feel free as well. And then you can go learn, train, and one day work for somebody great like Alice.
I've got a fun panel that I really have a lot. I have a lot of respect for the other panelists that I'm a part of, and so I can't wait for that.
It's gonna be fun. Hopefully we can kick it off and do it well, and then we'll do it bigger next year. So
do
we're
it
gonna try and
live
grow
sometime.
It.
That would
That's
be
what we want to get
fantastic.
to. That's what we want to get to. And we probably start doing it in Omaha, to be honest, because it's so many agencies here.
We've got room.
Might as well save you guys the travel.
That
So,
would be awesome.
yeah.
Well, wait, then we wouldn't be able to meet everybody at the airport.
That's true.
So-
Well, we could start at the airport and come back.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
We could just pick everybody up from the airport and take them to the conference. But yeah.
Thank you for being here again. I really appreciate it. It was awesome that it was 200 episodes. That's
wild. If I would have known that, I would have brought something nice.
That's all right. So, all right. We'll see you in another 200 episodes.